And we're back here, folks, on the Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you as we got a lot to talk about here as, well, you see the title, Woe in the City, and that is the case when it comes to both the Jets and the Giants. And let me start with this. I'm going to start with the Giants first. Usually we do the Jets on these kind of things, and it's really kind of Jet-centric here. But the Jets are such a pathetic franchise right now. They're sitting here at 0-7. There's not a lot to say about the Jets. We'll get to them in a minute. But I really want to start with the Giants because that was one of the most epic collapses you will ever see. I had to, because usually I film these late on a Sunday night, I had to take some time to watch the highlights again, just to be sure of what the heck I just saw earlier in the afternoon, because the Giants sat there with a 19-0 lead, heck, even a 26-8 lead, and still found a way to grab defeat from the jaws of victory in one of the most epic collapses ever. How epic? Well, here's this. First time in 1,602 games that a team with an 18-point lead in the fourth quarter ended up losing that game. First time in 1,602 games. And it's also the first time that a team, the Broncos in this case, scored 33 points in the fourth quarter after getting shut out for 3 straight quarters. So who do you blame for this? Who takes the blame? Well, obviously the head coach is going to take the ultimate blame for what's happened here. You can then break it down from there. Defensive coordinator, the execution of the players. Boy, was that a disaster, especially in the secondary. The fact that Jackson Dart turned into a pumpkin in the fourth quarter. Yes, the Giants got bailed out by the officials. Get into all that in just a moment. But this is a case in point with the Giants. This is now the third time this year where they have had a lead in the fourth quarter, or have had a lead in a game that they should have won and end up losing. This, of course, being the coup de grace of coup de grace, all right, where they, of course, as I just said, have the biggest lead ever and still find a way to lose the game. My goodness. They lost to the Cowboys in week 2? Game they should have won. Lost to the Saints a couple weeks ago, game they should have won, where they were up 14-3, and then this one. So if the Giants had, let's just say, made better decisions, coaching-wise, had made better plays on the field, that 2-5 record could easily be 5-2. And we could be talking about the Giants being a sneaky playoff team this year. Hell, even let's just leave the losses on the Dallas and Saints game alone. If the Giants had just won that game yesterday, they would be 3-4 and would be right in the mix in the NFC East, because Washington lost to Dallas. They're 3-4 right now. Washington, Dallas is 3-1, wide open. Philadelphia, who the Giants just beat a couple weeks ago, Giants see them again now at 2-5. After this kind of loss, this is the kind of loss that could send a team spiraling out of control. It happens during the course, sometimes during the season, where you have a team riding high, they have that one bad loss, one awful loss, and then it all falls apart. So this is going to be a big test for Brian Daboll and his coaching staff this week to get his players past this complete and utter train wreck. So fourth quarter, defense plays horrible. 239 yards allowed in the fourth quarter. Obviously the 33 points after shutting out the Broncos. That's what's so mind-boggling. You shut out the Broncos for 3 quarters. You're up 26-8 with 5 minutes and 14 seconds to go, and all hell breaks loose. I mean, it was crazy. You got Bo Nix running around all over the place. I know a lot of people want to get on Deonte Banks, and why not? Because the Denver Broncos focused on Deonte Banks all afternoon. They chewed him up. Whether it was Marvin Mims or Cortland Sutton or whoever could get open, the Bo Nix and the Broncos would target Deonte Banks all day. Even at the end of the game, the 2 big catches, the one by Mims and the one by Sutton, who was covering? It was Deonte Banks. Who was on the play when he got destroyed by the left tackle because he took the wrong step? It was Deonte Banks. He had a horrible game, no question about it, but he wasn't alone. Look, everybody played terribly on that defense. They couldn't get pressure. There were bad penalties. Kayvon Thibodeau had a bad penalty there in the fourth quarter. You also had Drew Phillips playing badly in the secondary. He got burned badly by Marvin Mims on a catch on the sideline that helped lead to a Broncos score. I mean, it was a total and collective failure by that Giant defense, execution-wise, and a total failure by the defensive coordinator and the head coach Brian Daboll to say, we got to slow this thing down. And that's the thing that really has to kill you with the Giants, because when they're up 26-16, and I heard Tiki Barber mention this on the postgame, the Giants are up 26-16. They had the football with about 5 minutes, about 4, it's approaching the 5-minute mark, and they run the ball twice, don't get anywhere, but they force Denver to call their first 2 timeouts. And then on third down, the Giant play call is to have Jackson Dart throw the football. Now, Dart did a terrible job. It's a 3rd and 5. You should be able to complete a 5-yard out pass on a slant or something and get the first down. Instead, as he's got guys falling around him, around his legs, decides then, Dart, to throw the football, and it gets picked off. So you want to criticize the play call, say, hey, you should run the ball and force Denver to call a timeout, or maybe force Denver to accept that a lot of clock's going to get chewed off. Okay, I understand that, but that was a terrible throw by Dart. And look, Jackson Dart is a good player, okay? No question. But the Giants have a lot of good young players on this team. And Dart's very good, threw 3 touchdowns, played well, from the statistical standpoint, played well. But there were so many plays in that fourth quarter where I'm sitting there and I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, what are the Giants doing? I mean, you have, a situation where this is, this leading up to the Giants' go-ahead score when they're down, 30-26, and I see the Giants, and I get it. You got 2 minutes to go in a game, but why are you taking shot after shot after shot after shot down the field? I mean, there was a situation where the Giants had a 2nd and 14, and I see Dart throwing bullets, all the way down the field, taking shots down the field. Just take your time. You got it minute and 40, minute and 50, whatever it was. Take your time, get the first down, and keep going. Because if you do that and you just methodically get down the field, you have a situation where even if you do score the touchdown and take the lead, Denver has less time on the clock. So why is he taking shots down the field? It was crazy. One shot after another after another. They got bailed out. I mean, you got to give the officials absolutely bailed out the Giants in this game. First, let me just look at my notes here. The catch by Wendell Robinson on 4th and 19, he was short. It looked like he was short, but they said it was a first down. Now, of course, all got negated by the fact that there was a roughing the passer call on Denver. So the Giants would have gotten the first down anyway, but it added yards to the end of the play, and the Giants are now at the Bronco 40. But that was a bad job by the referees. They missed that one. Then, of course, there was the play at the end of the game where he's taking a shot downfield towards the end zone, and you see the kind of the bat and arm barring between R.J. Moss and Bo Collins, and the referees throw the flag on Moss. Yes, they were both twisting and twisting around each other, but looked like Collins was more of a offense in my mind, certainly in the mind of the Broncos, because Sean Payton goes running onto the field screaming at the refs. He gets flagged. The Broncos get flagged for the pass interference. Now all of a sudden the ball gets spotted at the 1-yard line, and then of course the Giants take it in from there with a 1-yard plunge by Dart. But the Broncos and the refs gifted the Giants the lead in that situation. They absolutely did, especially the refs. Those are some bad blown calls at the end of the game because, like I said, the Giants are just taking shots. I'm sitting there like, why don't you just try to get the ball? Why don't you just try to move the ball downfield? Why don't you just try to get first downs and take your time and don't leave time on the clock for Denver? But they did that, and of course it paid off for the Broncos in the end as they, get a couple of big passes. Like, as I mentioned, Deonte Banks got victimized big time and they settled for the field, and they got the field goal and won the game. And look, I understand people are going to want to kill the Giant kicker for missing a couple extra points. I understand that. But there are so many other ways in which the Giants lost this game. From the defensive standpoint, from the schematic standpoint defensively, the poor execution, the bad play calls, the inability to adjust, the desperation by this offense when a more methodical approach would have applied, and also on the head coach for not trying to calm this thing down. Your team, you got a young team, mostly young team. You got to get these guys, say, calm down. Calm the blank down. And he failed to do that. And, of course, as a result, it turns into a total train wreck for the Giants, who, as we know, now sit here at 2-5 instead of being at 3-4. Wow. Wow. Like I said, that could turn into a meltdown for the Giants for the rest of the season. If they had won that game, we could be talking about the Giants maybe being a sneaky team that could, contend for the playoffs. Now, 2-5, it could spiral out of control. I don't see the Giants winning in Philadelphia. I don't see that happening. I know they beat the Eagles a couple weeks ago, but Philadelphia is going to be coming out for revenge time in this game. And then it gets dicey. The 49ers are tough. Bears have been tough. Packers are a weird team. Lions after that. Patriots look good. So, again, that last quarter of the season, Washington, Minnesota, Vegas, and Dallas, those are all very winnable games still. But before then, as we get into the end of October, into November, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult. So that game last today, losing that game the way the Giants did, it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them big time. Even if they finish like 8-9, you'll be sitting there saying, and miss the playoffs, you'll be sitting there saying, man, if we only had won that one game in Denver, if only we had held on to that game in Denver. Because there's no reason when you're up 19-0, and then 26-8, there is no reason to lose that game. Heck, even up 26-16, no reason to lose that game. Now, as far as the other team in town, and that's the team that played in a half-empty, maybe three-quarter-empty MetLife Stadium. I'm looking at pictures yesterday of MetLife online, on social media. And you can count the number of people that are in the stands. Kudos to the Jets and the Giants for making sure that the seats are gray and silver, because if it was like the old Giant Stadium where the seats were red and blue, it would be such an eyesore. You would just see a sea of red and blue seats. It would be embarrassing. It was embarrassing enough as it was. The Jet fan has given up. The Jet fan has had enough. Especially when the product that they see on a week-in, week-out basis is as piss poor as you see from the New York Jets, who are sit there now 0-7. I don't know what else to say anymore. Finally, Aaron Glenn benches Justin Fields in the game. Ironically, a week after he was questioned about it by Brian Costello, who said, hey, why didn't you try to bench Fields in this game against Denver? What were you thinking? And he oh, you can't ask that. How dare you? How dare you ask such a question? Well, he benched him yesterday. Benched him on Sunday afternoon. Wasn't any better with Tyrod Taylor, who, admittedly, I will admit, we all got to admit, everyone wanted to see Tyrod Taylor rather than Justin Fields. Well, we did see him, and he turned into captain turnover, throwing 2 picks. Could have easily thrown 3 picks in the game. I get it. The Jets don't have any weapons offensively. They're rolling out there with Mason Taylor and Josh Reynolds and whatever, Tyler Johnson, whoever they can find to catch a football. I get it. No Garrett Wilson at all. But the fact is, this Jet offense stunk. It stinks big time. Nothing they do is right. Breece Hall gets hurt in the game. They weren't even using him that much anyway to begin with. He's still trade bait. This team looks like it's given up. You look at the sideline, you see Quinn Williams yawning on the sideline. The guy's had enough. I feel bad for a lot of these guys. I feel bad for guys like Quinn Williams and Quincy Williams and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, who have been here now for 4, 5, 6 years, depending on how long they've been, depending on their seniority and contract. And all they've seen is losing every which way possible. And this coach has no answers. Aaron Glenn has no answers.
Well, that's something that, I want to continue to look at. Again, it's early on Monday, so I said this yesterday that there's a lot of thought that goes into that. For me personally, and then being able to get with the staff, and then just being able to ask other coaches that have been in the situation, how would they handle that? So I'm not running away from the question at all, Rich. The thing is, I want to make sure that I make the right decision, and I don't want to make rash decisions either.
Coach, it's just not working. And what's going on here with these play calls? It's been epidemic ever since the Miami game. It feels like the first drive determines the game. It does. Once again, the Jets get on the opening drive, they get into field position to put points on the board, and they grab the opportunity and waste it. They waste it. 4th and 5, you're inside Carolina territory at the, 33-yard line, wherever it was, and you don't kick a field goal? Last week they wouldn't kick a field goal, a 62-yard field goal, because the coach didn't know what yard line he was on or whatever, and he's like, well, we got to have it, at the 35-yard line of their 35. You have it at the opponent's 33-yard line this week, and you don't kick the field goal? What are you doing? 4th and 5, the Jets go for it, incomplete. Of course. It's about understanding, I said this before, situational awareness. Giants certainly didn't have it yesterday, and the Jets haven't had it all year. Especially with the coach in Aaron Glenn, who let's be honest, we've all been saying it, everyone's been saying it. He's in over his head right now. He really is. And there's really not much to say about this game. It was a joke. It was boring to watch. I literally started falling asleep watching this game. How could you not? A dead silent stadium, a team that doesn't seem to care against another team that's equally bad in the Panthers. And I don't want to hear about how great the Jet defense was yesterday, because you're playing a Carolina team that stinks. I'm sorry. I know Carolina's 4-3. They stink. Their quarterback, Bryce Young, I know he got hurt. He stinks. Andy Dalton at the end of his career now, he stinks. Carolina stinks. So I don't want to hear about how great the Jet defense was against that team. To me, it's still the same Jet defense we saw get chewed up by everybody else in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. So I don't want to hear it. So, show me, go take on New England and shut them down with that defense. If you do that, then I'll come down on here and say kudos to the Jet defense, but that's not going to happen. My word. But it leaves just a handful of questions. The only thing to say about the Jet game is this, and about the Jet situation is this: what's the path? What path are they going to take now? Forget the season, whether they start Justin Fields next week against the Cincinnati Bengals or not. Who cares? They're going to lose the game anyway. Okay, Joe Flacco's going to go nuts. He's going to light him up next week. Okay, we all know that. Who cares? What are they going to do? Do the Jets trust Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji and this front office moving forward? Meaning the Jets are going to have possibly a 1, 2, or they're going to be in the top 3 of the draft next year, right? Top 3. And we all know it's going to be a quarterback, whether it be Fernando Mendoza or a Dante Banks. I saw Banks play the other day against Rutgers, and he just lit it up. Now, keep in mind, Rutgers' defense isn't that great. Michigan State's defense, which went up against Indiana, not that great. Obviously, the windows to see, and certainly you have wide receivers wide open in these games, and the windows in the NFL, of course, go from this in college to like this in the NFL, if not even tighter. So I totally get that. We'll see how those guys adjust when they get here to the NFL level. But do you trust Glenn and Muji to make that pick, whether it be Mendoza or Dante Moore? Both are extremely talented. Both have what look like on paper and on video from what we've seen, they look like they have the goods to become good quarterbacks in the NFL. Who are they going to? Do you trust the Jets to do this? Because this is a pattern that these teams do in the NFL. They have a coach in the front office that's on the hot seat after a bad first year. They draft a young quarterback, and then someone gets fired. We saw it in Tennessee this week, right? Brian Callahan getting the axe. He's got a rookie quarterback, Cam Ward. We see it now with the Giants. If the losing continues here with the Giants, Brian Dable may or may not be back next year, despite how good his relationship is with Jackson Dart. What's that going to do for his development next year? The Jets did this themselves with Sam Darnold. Todd Bowles on the hot seat, drafted Sam Darnold third overall, and of course, the Jets' experience for Darnold was a complete disaster. He had to bounce around before finally finding his way in Minnesota and now Seattle. Unstable situations do not help young quarterbacks. So if you're the Jets, if you're Woody Johnson, do you bring these guys back next year? If this continues to spiral out of control, ends up 2-15, 1-16, 0-17, or do you just let it ride? And the reports are, there was a report by The Athletic, Zach Rosenblatt's report, saying that the Jets look like all indications are they're going to bring Glenn back because, obviously, it's a big contract. He has 4 more years left in his contract. While there's no official number of what he is getting paid per year, everyone says it's a very lucrative deal. So chances are Aaron Glenn will be back in 2026. But if this continues to spiral out of control and the players look lost and defeated, I wonder if Woody Johnson's just going to bite the bullet and make a decision. Keep in mind, Jets still paying Robert Saleh to the end of, I believe, into next year. They got Glenn on the books for the next 4 years. Do you want to have another coach on top of that? Whoever that may be. That's going to be a big question for the Jets. That's where they are. Forget these, how these games turn out, it doesn't matter. We know they're going to be in the top 5 at the very least in the NFL draft, no matter what. And they're going to get a quarterback, whoever that may be. The question is, what is this Jet team going to look? What do they want to be moving forward? And right now, considering how poorly run they are, and how disorganized they look, and how unmotivated they look, I really wonder how much longer this is going to continue with this coach. And I want him to succeed. I was pleased when the Jets hired Aaron Glenn. I was. Because, again, when he came here, I thought he would be bringing back some of that culture that the Jets had late 90s, early 2000s, when they were turning it around, becoming a winning franchise, a winning program. And I still think that if he is given the chance, maybe that could happen. But it's hard to do in this market. It's very hard to do it in this New York market when you keep losing. And you keep losing as badly as they are. And I know he keeps referencing the Lions in 2021 and the Cowboys in 89. Again, the Lions in 2021 had Jared Goff. Who did the Jets have? They were bad Lions, but they at least had a franchise quarterback. Cowboys just drafted in 1989 Troy Aikman. So these teams were figuring it out. The Jets are trying to... Those teams were in the process of figuring it out. The Jets haven't even begun that process, or at least they're starting to begin that process right now. It's a tough situation. It's an ugly situation in this town, folks. It's ugly. Jets suck. Giants suck. That's all I can tell you. Like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts below. How do you feel? We'll talk to you next time.